They call Flakka the zombie drug for a reason. It's the way people move when they are on it. Their bodies jerk and contort in an unnerving and human way, almost like a zombie. When someone takes too much Flakka, the muscle fibers in their body start to dissolve into the bloodstream. Their body starts moving uncontrollably. Sometimes their head will drop down below their shoulders. Other times their limbs will stiffen and shoot out. It's like watching a marionette dance as its strings are cut, or perhaps a glitch in a video game. But it's not just that the users look weird. Flicker activates the fight-or-flight response in a person's brain, often turning them irrationally violent, and at the same time it causes paranoid delusional fantasies, meaning their brains just come with reasons to start fighting. In one case, a man on Flickr just started destroying his own home. He tore up the furniture and violently rammed his own body into the wall, beating himself into a bloody pulp before the police even arrived. The police had to struggle to subdue him, and by the time they did, he had died. The apartment looked like a murder scene. If it wasn't for the body cameras, I'd probably have two officers in jail right now, the investigator said, looking at the destroyed house and the battered body of a man who had beaten himself to death. The best-known story connected to Flickr is the story of Austin Harrell, a 19-year-old boy who was caught chewing off his neighbor's face and growling like an animal. The madness, paranoia, and superhuman strength he showed made people think he was on Flickr, but in this case, toxicology tests showed he wasn't on any drugs at all. When it comes out that Flickr's best-known murderer wasn't on drugs, some people started saying the stories about it were overblown. But even if Harrell wasn't on it, there were plenty of other stories of people becoming murderers after taking the drug. One, one man named Leroy Strothers grabbed a gun, stripped off his clothes, climbed up onto a roof, and opened fire on his neighbors. He'd taken Flickr, he later told police, and became convinced that Haitian gang was outside trying to murder his family. Another man named Darren Morrison became convinced that an 82-year-old woman was blood-soaked, murderous demon who was trying to kill him. He broke through her door and brutally beat her. The old woman was sent to the hospital. After 3 long agonizing months, she died from the wounds he'd given her. Flickr actually starts to rewire the brain chemistry. They have no control over their thoughts. They can't control their actions, one expert explained. It seems to be universal that they think that someone is chasing them. It's just a dangerous, dangerous drug. Flickr can make people dangerous, but what makes it really threatening is just how cheap and powerful it is. The drug is 10 times more potent than cocaine, so strong that taking any more than 0.1 grams can cause an overdose. People call it $5 insanity because that's the price you have to pay for enough Flickr to affect you as much as $80 worth of cocaine. It's an incredibly powerful drug that, like any drug, people enjoy taking at first, but it also incredibly addictive and has the power to override a person's reason and push them to taking more than they should. When you take more than 0.1 grams of Flickr, it gets lot less fun. Your body temperature can go up as high as 41 degrees Celsius, 106 Fahrenheit. Your muscle fibers dissolve, causing spasms, cramps, and difficulty breathing. The beating of your heart becomes a struggle. In dozens of cases, over the few short years the drug has been on the market, people have died from overdoses. Some had heart attacks, some seizures, and some strokes. But one way or another, their hearts stopped beating. Pain serves a purpose when you get hurt. It's your body telling you that something's wrong and that you need help. It's something that helps keep you alive, but with Flakka that doesn't always happen. There's a terrifying video of above of a Flakka abuser in Brazil shows. The video made it sound online after a man high on Flakka showed up in a hospital with a gaping bullet wound on his face. Though he had an injury that, if untreated, could have killed him, he didn't even seem to notice. He just walked around with his spine arched unnaturally backwards, laughing and growling at people who tried to help, looking like a man possessed by a demon. It wasn't the first time something like that had happened. In 2015, police in Florida had to stop a 17-year-old girl who was running down the streets covered in blood, screaming, "I am God, I am Satan." She'd been cut. They later learned when she jumped through the window of a stranger's home. The family was inside when she came crashing through the glass and watched in shock. The bloody girl leaped back out, starting pounding against their car window, attacked a person on the lawn, and ran away. At the height of the Flakka craze, Florida newspapers were filled with stories about people running around the streets naked, usually from a paranoid delusion. In one case, the police came out on a call to find a man named Kenneth Crowder, with his pants at his knees, trying to have sex with a tree. When he wouldn't respond, the police tried to subdue him with a taser. Crowder, though, didn't stop. He shouted at the officer that he was Thor, god of thunder, and charged him, scratching his face and even trying to steal his police badge and stab him with it. In another incident, a 34-year-old man named Matthew Tenney was running naked through a busy intersection. When the cops caught him, he told them that an evil group had stolen his clothes and now were chasing him, trying to kill him. He ran into the streets, hoping that someone would run him over. "If I got hit by a car, they would stop chasing me," he told the officers. He didn't care if he got himself killed. He told the police that he would rather die than be caught by the twisted creatures chasing him in his own imagination. People overdosing on Flakka aren't just violent, they're completely fearless. They'll do things that normal people would never even imagine doing, including attacking police head-on. One man in Coconut Creek tried to run over a police officer. The officer got out of the way, but the Flakka user still ran into his car before fleeing at 160 kilometers per hour, 100 miles per hour. When they caught him, he simply apologized and said, "Flakka made me do it." That sounds crazy, but he's not the only person to do it. Another man tried to climb over 3-meter tall, 10-feet security fence around a jail. It didn't quite work. He slipped and impaled his buttocks on one of the fence spikes. His explanation, though, was that people were out there trying to kill him and his only hope was to go to jail. And yet another man drove his car into the Indian River County Jail and after wrecking his car, tried to climb over the fence. When the police caught him, he was tangled in the fence razor wire. He told them that they, all he wanted was to visit his friends in jail. Somehow, Flakka seems to actually give users superhuman strength. Their brains get altered until they have the power a mother taps into when she gets the strength to pull a car off her child, and that can make them incredibly dangerous. A man named James West tried to break his way into the Fort Lauderdale police headquarters. After smoking Flakka, he became paranoid and there 25 cars trying to chase him and run him over. He wanted the police to help him, so he tried to break down their front door. West tried to smash his way through by hitting a hole in the hurricane-proof glass, smashing it with a rock, and tearing the door off its hinges. And he almost succeeded. A detective in the office later said his powers were so forceful that when he pulled you actually could see the door shaking, and him throwing the rock and that cracked the impacted window. And he's not the only person who's been able to tear down doors. Another man in West Palm Beach wandered into a hospital and turned violent when the security asked him to leave. In a Flakka-induced rage, the man smashed through the hospital's glass door with his bare fist. That's what that drug does, it totally alters reality. An emergency physician named Dr. Nabil at Sanadi explained. They're just using their physical strength to escape from whatever their brain is telling them. Flakka doesn't just make its users a danger to others, though, it makes them a danger to themselves. The drug can overwhelm them with feelings of depression and suicidal thoughts. In fact, some of the first steps from the drug comes from suicide. When John Hammer Jr. started taking Flakka, he was overcome with paranoia. He started calling his mother with what she called his crazy calls, describing his delusions. "Somebody's chasing me," he told her once. "It's the cops. They're here. The helicopters are overhead." His mother tried to help him, but she didn't get to him on time. Soon he was found in a hotel closet hanging from the ceiling, with an electrical cord around his neck. People can lose all sense of the value of human life on the drug. One woman in Palm Beach, Florida, instead of giving up her own life, gave up on her baby. High on the drug, she walked to Walmart, gave her 1-year-old child a meal of bacon cheddar cheese and a bottle of Sprite, and abandoned him. She blacked out after that. Her next memory, she has said, was waking up in Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. By then the police had already found her child, alone and crying for its mother in Walmart's parking lot. The really terrifying part is how easy it is to buy Flakka. Restrictions are a bit tighter than they used to be, but at its height Flakka could be ordered online with a click of a button. The drug was sold online by about 150 different Chinese companies. The biggest is Tai Tai Technology Co., a company run by a Chinese drug lord named Bo Peng, but he's believed to just be one of many who put the drug up online shopping sites. They charge $1,500 for a kilogram of Flakka, which usually can make about $50,000 on the streets. Up until recently, it was perfectly legal for them to sell Flakka too. That doesn't mean they didn't delve into the dark side of their business though. When the New York Times contacted a Flakka dealer and asked him about the price of shipping, the customer service representative on the other end told them it depended. I can handle this for you legally or illegally. The laws are getting a bit stricter now. The United States put a temporary ban on Flakka in 2013 and is working on a full one. And even China banned it in 2015. But outside of US and China, there are plenty of countries that are only starting to talk about it, which means in some places it's still a little drug. The United States government is pretty proud of how it's handled the Flakka craze. They managed to nearly completely dry out the supply in the US, which to some people means the problem is over. But if you look outside the US, it's a different story. Flakka use is starting to spread into Brazil, where it's creating a whole new epidemic. In fact, three of the videos in the article are from Brazil and from this year, and it's moving into other countries too. Police in Scotland, Canada, Australia, Malta, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and almost every other country you can think of are starting to find Flakka in drug busts and in the bloodstream of criminals. It hasn't totally left the US either, though Florida is experiencing what police are calling a drought of drugs. They're starting to see it crop up in other states around the country, and that has police worried because this isn't like other drugs. As one Florida officer put it, at the height of the Flakka craze, you were almost praying that crack cocaine to come back.